I can't help people like this. I can't. I just Team D, they've gone for a Rubik now. All right, so they've gone for the pause, but let's forget that happened. Pause for Rubik is now here. Destrus, he's going to be on the Rubik. Do you want to talk more about your Overcooked game, John? Is that what you want? Would you like to talk
I
about it? What did you cook? What did you cook, John?
I I only played once and we kind of failed on the line. But it's me and my sister. We kind of didn't know the controls, so we just threw around food in the counter as you'd expect from a very low quality restaurant. So it didn't end up well. Hopefully we brush up on that. I want to get my pro Overcooked gaming on. I don't think there's even a scene for it. It's a party game. It's like Mario Party and stuff like that. It's like a mini game thing. So with that, I will go back to the drafts to go
Thank
away
you,
from
John.
Overcooked and to
I
stop throwing
appreciate.
Ponlo under the bus.
I
Rubik
appreciate it.
pickup for Team D. They've got not the best hold for the puck here. That is a worry. Like the puck should be able to jump in and out. Alacrity should be able to do more on the map and be able to set up for his team a lot more. The only combination I'm seeing from Team D and hold is cold feet in the lift up. So with that, you can kind of hold them back that way. The Underlord fixes that issue. They've got the Great Pit of Malice. They can play with that with the cold feet, with the lift to chainstone really well on multiple heroes if you land that lift on people in the pit and kind of go from there. The Underlord into Spectre is a really nice lane as well. Spectre does not enjoy that lane. Like she's just constantly burning from the Firestorm damage. She loses right click damage with the Atrophy aura. Spectre, it's already a really slow laner. Having your farm up against this kind of hero just painful to deal with. So in your dreams, gonna have to find a way to accelerate his farm, and that's the issue with Spectre. The fast farm just doesn't come out. You go for Blade Mail, you need stacks. It doesn't die that fast anyway. So
Nice.
it's just such a slow pace from the Spectre. And GXR, they're gonna rely on that puck. They're gonna rely on Mizu's offlane here or whatever it may be to give them that space because the Spectre is gonna take some time to cook up here.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. Team D, final ban out now. Looks like they are going to be focusing on those Mizu heroes. Last game around, we saw the Mizu Legion Commander. Obviously, that did not work out for the side of GXR, so we'll see how they switch things up. I wonder what route they go down. You have nice team fight with this puck. You've got the line, you've got the Enchantress. What are you seeing here for this offlane for GXR? I mean, their backs against the ropes here. Obviously, if they lose this game, they're not out of it yet, but I believe they will be knocked down to go against OB Neon, if I'm correct. So,
Yep.
it's a pretty hard matchup if you get knocked down here in this series. And we just saw OB Neon against 496, and it looked like they kind of left yesterday behind, and they were it's a renewed OB Neon. The one we're used to seeing is back. Any kind of offlane you expect here for GXR, John? Anything that makes the draft look amazing after they pick it up?
The Tide would have been great if it wasn't banned out by Team D. I guess you have the option for Timbersaw could come true with Timbersaw Lion. That can kind of work out.
Yeah.
It can be aggressive. It rips through the Underlord. You are picking Tim into AA, so that could be a bit awkward, but I don't think it's going to be a big issue. There's no magical burst on Team D. They do have percent damage on the Underlord, which is, again, also awkward. But if you're just looking for something to buy you that early laning space, Timbersaw could be the way. Sven here for Drew. That is control. I like it in the concept of team fights because you have the Pit of Malice, the Lift, the Cold Feet, and now the Stormhammer coming through. GXR, they close out with a Batrider here. So they do have solid hold in the offlane, and that is one way to play fast. Just get that initial farm on Mizu, have him run around once he has either his Travels up or a Fast Blink or a Eul's, depending on what he really feels like he needs. He cannot afford to sit back and farm the jungle, though. Like, you do not want to see the Batrider, the Spectre, and the Puck all building up for an item at the same time. You have to have at least one hero on the map making space. So I think that's going to have to ride on Mizu. He has to take that forward position, create space for the team, and be a nuisance. This is a really good lane to play into against the Sven. He's a melee hero. It's not fun to lane against a Batrider for him. But I think as the game scales on, this Sven is a good answer to the Spectre. Like, you can naturally build a Silver Edge if you feel the need for a break. You've got great damage output. You're super tanky as well. It's a hard hero to really hold back here from GXR, aside from really just getting that lasso off. Like, once the BKB's up on Drew, it's all about Mizu landing a good lasso here.
Fair enough. John, I'll ask you the hard question. A lot riding on this game too for either of these two teams. Who came out with the better draft?
I'm going to have to go with Team D. I like the closer with that. Okay. Sven, I like the synergy they have with the Underlord. The chain stunts they can get from there. You've got Chris on this Templar Assassin as well that can just flash farm fast. There is an issue of farm sharing in the jungle early on, but I think we've seen TAs after they get the Dragonlance plus the Desolator or the Blink, they're happy enough to leave, right? So that should still give space for the Sven. Underlord's not going to need too much farm. And even if he does, he's very comfy just staying in lane where he can attract attention to himself. I think KYXY understands that role on the offlane where if you attract attention to a hero like this, you don't mind too much. As long as you're bigger courser farming. For GXR, I mean, it's just much harder. Like, you need to juggle your farm a lot tighter here. Your Puck wants a fast Witchblade Blink. Your Bat Rider is going to need either the Yule's Force Staff or Blink Dagger first, or Travels from the offlane, but that tends to be less common as a first item rush on off. So you need one of those up on the Bat, and then the Bat Rider might actually take some of that jungled space away from the Spectre. I think the pressure is going to be there on Alacrity's Puck to actually get that initial space with his toolkit instead, whereas the Bat Rider is going to share space with the Spec, and it just boils down to how fast you can clear that jungle. I don't think the Spectre is just in a good spot to keep up against the Sven. The Sven is just so quick. Once you've got the cleave up, it just really clears out a lot faster. And that is something that GXR will have to pay attention to. They need to ward up the jungle, invade the jungle much more than we saw last time, and prevent that from coming out for Drew.
Line's being drawn out already. Loot bet odds were up, by the way, John. GXR still the favorites, just roughly the same odds as last time. So, interesting odds to look at, as they are potentially going to run right into Mizu. He's got the sticky napalm up. He might just break the smoke in time, and does, but he doesn't see them. He doesn't see them in time. They were within the fog. That darn tree there blocked all the vision, and it looks like they should be able to get the first blood. Very nice there from side of Team D. Destrus will be the one to take the first blood on the pos for Rubik. At least Drew didn't get it, right? Like, if you're GXR, at least Drew didn't get the first blood.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a silver lining. I think Rubik getting that is still pretty darn good, though. Like, Destrus started out with 3 sentries anyway. So, you know, he wants some gold to rush into the boots, to have that presence in lane. And this just means a fairly fast boots anyway, with an even 2 bounty rune start. KYXY is contesting top, though, but he's going to be shoved out. It should end up even overall, but you're off to a good footing here on Team D's side. Killing off the Bat Rider hurts Mizu. He gets a free TP early on when he doesn't need to expend it. So, you know, in a way, it's not all bad news, I guess. Stay positive.
He gets a free TP on cooldown. Very nice. Mizu, he'll be happy with that. They also got the that sentry on the Ancients, right? So, like, against the Bat Rider, you never really want to allow him to farm those Ancient stacks. So, a quick sentry ward to make sure they slow those down. We'll see if Team D actually keep an eye on that triangle. Like, whether Ponlo can re-invade that triangle later on and just keep the vision up. And even that Observer ward is very intriguing. Between the T1 and T2 towers, they're going to go on to Mizu again. They want to make sure they harass him out very early on while they still can, before he does have that Firefly up. But I am very curious about that Observer ward behind the T1 and T2. I imagine it's to spot out if they are going for those stacks. But it could be for a multitude of reasons. It's very hard to tell exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty darn good ward spot. You don't need too much forward vision. You know where the Bat Rider is going to play. You know where the Lion's going to be walking around anyway. So you don't need that ward in this jungle area. You definitely want to keep track of those stacks instead. You can punish the Bat Rider when he's going for the stacks as well. He's not going to be healthy and clearing out. We've seen Bat Riders do that. A really good Courier Snipe from Jokam. It does give them a little bit of gold. But so far this lane is okay for both sides. Drew, and he's still getting some decent farm, but so is Mizu. And as the levels go up, it should be more manageable for Mizu, as you said. They've got good Earth Spike combinations to run down, so you will have to be cautious as the levels build up here on Team D's end.
Fair enough. We should have a look at the other lanes as well, of course. Mid lane, you've got Alacrity there against Chris. You know, I ask you this question all the time, but I know TA doesn't lose the mid lane. It's very hard for this hero to lose. Look at those side blades just bouncing the way of Alacrity. Even on the puck, it's just a very annoying matchup.
Yeah, it's not fun. And I was having a bit of a chat with our friend Crest Dota, right? Crest Dota, Jong. We were talking about the TA matchups and TA mid versus ranged and melee. And he actually thinks that ranged heroes are a lot easier to land side blades on. And I think I agree with him. You notice how often Chris can actually just get the hits off. Because melee heroes can juke from a closer radius. Whereas on the wide radius from range, you can just keep twacking away while still hitting the creeps safely. And the TA just wins out. Again, you look at the puck, there's no easy way to clear refraction at level 2. And that's just going to keep piling on for Krish. The only thing you have going for the puck is higher mobility for the runes. So that's where Alacrity has to leverage himself and make sure he secures power runes, water runes, and bounty runes and get himself that regen game going.
Fair enough. Bot lane as well. In your dream, Polison going to be there. KYXY and Destrus going to be against them. Underlord's one of those weird heroes right now. Like, it's still very annoying with the Atrophy aura. So it may be kind of a nuisance for In Your Dream to be able to CS safely. But he is going to have the help of Polison there on that Enchantress. Not that KYXY is going to care too much. But it is going to mean that In Your Dream should remain safe. We'll just see how well he can CS against the Underlord though. Because that Atrophy aura is really annoying.
Yeah, it definitely is. For now, you're still getting something in the lane for IYT.
Top lane, Firefly's there. Mizu, he doesn't want to dive the tier 1 tower. That's one of the things when you're playing Batrider. You're always going to be aware that the stick charges are going to be there, pretty much maxed out for the enemy team. So Ponlo, he could just rely on those to be able to survive.
Yeah, and it's a bit awkward right now. And they have built up some large camp stacks as well. Jokam should notice that the Ancients aren't piling up. So, you know, they are aware that stacks are being built up because of Ponlo's ward, at least. Although Jokam is walking the other way, so they're not completely aware. But they can't really dive in deep. The Batrider is not tanky enough to take all the tower hits, and neither is Jokam. And you have a really tanky Sven. You have the chain stun combination if you dive too far in with Cold Feet and Stormhammer. So this is not an easy set of targets to commit onto unless Jokam does land a combination. Still, this is timely for Mizu to just go in, clear out the large camp, get some farm going. And because they haven't really seen those stacks, because of the direction Jokam walked, they can't quite punish. It's still a good gold injection for Mizu, and still going to be able to get some catch-up here.
I still think you're very happy, though. Like, if you're Team D, you've only forced the large camp, and I think it was only 3 stacks. Not really too big of a deal. Obviously, Mizu kind of needs it right now on the Batrider. Is still going to realize there's a sentry ward there. No D ward out yet, but Jokam does have a sentry now. Though it is going to be fairly late. That sentry just about 2.5 minutes away from expiring now. And actually, Ponlo's on the chase. Jokam might die here if he's not too careful. Drew just needs to land that Stormhammer with a Cold Feet, and he's guaranteed to die, but does loop around the tree line. He's going to be okay. This is going to allow Drew the safety of free farm on that safe lane, at least for now. They are going to try and chase down Ponlo, it seems. Right in that tree, Courier. Oh, they do find him. A nice hex out, and with the Firefly, it should be enough, but no, they can't dive the tier 1. In fact, Jokam now is going to be chased down. Stormhammer was already committed, but Drew is a man that really wants that kill, but he will not be able to get it. He will be forced to back, but again, he saves the life of Ponlo.
I think you're fine with that. Like, you commit Firefly, you commit a fair bit of mana. So Mizu's going to have to wait a little bit longer before doing anything. He's not going to be able to clear out the creep wave, and they can pressure here.
Oh, that they can. Mizu, he's going to be alright. He does walk away. His mid lane. Krish does protect his own Invis power rune there. Polison. Gonna see the trap for a second, but won't be able to get it in time. Looking back at this mid lane, Alacrity, he's done a great job in catching up. Because the last time we looked at this mid lane, it was quite a rough time for the puck, but he's just behind the TA, which is rather impressive here from Alacrity.
Yep, it's pretty good of Alacrity. Like, initially it looked a bit rough, but the fact that you're holding on, you're keeping up in farm while still losing some access to your jungle because of the Batrider taking it is pretty good. TP out early though.
KYXY. He chased down. Looks Looks like he's going to get coiled up as well. They really want the kill, and they will get him. Meanwhile, top lane, Ponlo, he's going to drop. But Drew, he's going to try after Jokam. He's not going to be able to get Jokam, but rather chase after Mizu. But Mizu has the Firefly, and Drew does not have the Stormhammer. So 2 kills across the map now for GXR. 2 very nice kills with that. I mean, the Pulse 3 Underlord, always going to feel nice to be taken out.
Yeah, good wins for GXR across the map. This is what we needed to see. Aggression coming out, get some space out for your Spectre, relieve that pressure on In Your Dream. IYD still lagging behind in farm, but in all seriousness, he's keeping up with the Underlord in his lane matchup, so it's not actually that bad. Like, it is slower for him to flash farm in the jungle. He doesn't have access to the camps as well. And so in this sense, you are pretty all right here for In Your Dream, and it doesn't feel like Team D's done enough just yet. This is the point where Team D's lineup takes it a bit slower. You need that initial farm in the TA. You need to keep buying space out for your Sven, and your Underlord isn't really that tanky until a couple of items come true.
KYXY again being chased down here. They've got 3 heroes up as Mizu is going to try and come in with the lasso, but they got the Dark Rift, but the Dark Rift, it takes way too long at level 1. And that's going to be a secondary death on KYXY. As an Underlord, you don't feel good dying like that over and over again. He's going to fall behind In Your Dream on the Spectre in terms of farm now.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And that does set up nicely for GXR. They're just keeping the Spectre very well protected. They're hammering in their supports. They're at the point where they can't afford to do so, though. Like, they don't need to keep watching the Sven. They know that Drew's just going to try to farm up like this. He's pretty darn strong. The Echo Saber's almost up for his Sven, so the Flash Farm's going to kick in. But they're keeping track of where Krish is farming, although Destrus might punish.
Yeah, Paulson. Being chased down, Destrus. He's not going to bother with the lift and Fade Bolt. Just let him walk out. He wasn't confident he would have enough damage. I don't think he would have. Meanwhile, Mizu, he's just going to farm up the jungle a little bit. Same thing's happening on the opposite end where Krish, he's going to come back to the lane for a second, but you know, he just wants to go right back to that jungle. Currently, Krish is top net worth as well. 4.5k net worth, but it's a TA. I mean, you can't... I'm not going to give him props for that, John. It's a TA. He should be the top of the net worth for it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want to see. The farm distribution for Team D is fairly even right now. You are getting good net worth on Krish and Drew. And Drew is very fortunate, finds the Possessed Mask. So the Echo Saber, he's still going to be able to sustain. They do steal the stacks, though.
Yeah. Krish, he didn't have time to take those. A nice scan out is going to reveal this is happening, but can they punish them? It doesn't seem like it. That was maybe a small error there from Krish, as he didn't leave a trap behind to actually scout out the vision of that happening. So he found that a little bit too late. GXR, they take a lot of gold away from the TA. Very nice stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice gold injection for a lack of T. That is the Witchblade. Just
top lane.
Accelerated in normal, though.
Oh, this is a big pick off Drew. On the Sven, has been caught. He'll go for the stun, but there's no way out of this. They even coiled just in case there was any kind of funny business about to happen. But nobody from Team D TP's up. They'll let Drew die by himself.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation for Team D. I mean, leaving Drew alone up top at this point in the game is fairly late. I think it's at this point you expect that lane swap to come out on bot, go for the tower trade. They don't really get that. The greed is punished. Krish is getting some damage on the mid tier 1 though. He's got double damage running and should be able to get some good work down.
Oh, Jokam. Even found Ponlo at the top lane. That'll be a 5-1 now, the side of GXR. That'll be the first finger kill for Jokam to boot, so stacking up that damage. But while that was happening, they let the mid-tier 1 tower drop. I don't know if that's worth it for GXR. That's a very valuable tower.
No, it's not worthwhile. They haven't even cleared out the top tier 1 yet, which is surprising. They're just cutting the creep wave. They don't have the best shove. And I think Team D will take that. Like, sure, you dropped a bunch of kills. You lost your Sven, but you still have time for the defense here.
Lift up. Destrus going to try and set up onto Jokam. Krish going to move in. The Earth Spike is there, and that should buy enough time for Jokam to get the TP out. They do finally get that top tier 1. Looks like Team D, they'll start trying to get to work on that bottom tier 1 tower. Still, they do have the kill lead, 5-1. Slight net worth lead as well, just under 1k. But it does seem like GXR, they've definitely kind of refreshed themselves in this game number 2 as they do get another nice coil off. But KYXY, he started the car up. He wants to send him home, and they will be able to do so. Very nice there. Ensuring that Drew does not die another time on that Sven. But while he's being TP'd home, In Your Dream's freely farming the top lane. He's got the Echo Saber up now, and that's going to allow this Spectre to farm even
Radiant's
faster.
middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, I like this coming out from In Your Dream. The Echo Saber just feels like he can contribute more when he haunts. The stats are good, and you still clear out the jungle fairly well, as long as you play with your dagger and just get the dispersion off. So it doesn't really slow you down as much, and it just gives you more activity. He is going for the Manta into Ags to keep that activity up. He understands that he shouldn't be playing the farm war game. He's still keeping up in farm, but the Sven just easily overtakes once he gets a couple of camps to go into. And you're always going to be at a slight network disadvantage against this lineup. They should still look to bully, though. Like, more activity is good for GXR. They need to just kind of stop what's going on, because while they pressure Drew, Krish is farming. If they pressure Krish, Drew's farming. If they pressure both, well, they haven't been clumped up together to be pressured at the same time anyway.
Bottom lane. Lackery. I don't think they can kill him. I mean, you can lock him down like that. Maybe a Stormhammer, but no, they won't even bother trying. Lackery will be just fine.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Krish, he's still just farming up himself. He's very, very close to that Desolator now. He's going to make his way down to the bot tier 1 to try and open up that lane. Of course, GXR, they won't really be able to trade the mid tier 1 towers right now with their own draft. They'll have to leave that be. But Krish, he's noticed a little bit of a stack. Dream Coil's there, though. He may get punished for this. The Haunt is in from In Your Dream as well. He'll break the coil, but he has no help around him. And he is going to end up going down to the Spectre. Krish, you never want to die like that as a TA. Just gets a little bit greedy, and that'd be his first death of the game.
Yeah, it's just a bit curious from Krish. He walked in. He didn't know about the ward that was up there earlier on, but he still walked into the outpost vision range. So he's just playing massively risky and trying to go for that farm, trying to go for those spots. He was, like, kind of close to his Desolator as well. Now it's just kind of stalled out. And they really need that Deso to be up with the Dragon Lance and the TA to have some activity go on. Because for D&D right now, it's all about farm. And GXR, they are keeping up with that farm pace. Their aggression's paying off big. Their farming pace is still really nice. They're going to have the blink up on Alacrity in a couple of minutes. Travels for Mizu's already done. So he's very speedy and he can show up all across the map, clear out the waves himself. You don't have anything like that from Team D yet. You are just farming on your 2 cores right now. KYXY is the one to try to protect them, taxi them back home. Isn't quite durable yet on this Underlord as well. And GXR, they're feeling great. They're feeling so good that even Paulson, he got the Vanguard. He's the one going Crimson Guard on the Enchantress. So they're going to have the Aura items coming up soon as well to block off some of that physical damage.
Jocam. Estrus, he's kind of got a bit of a hint that someone's around here. He's having a look through the tree line. Jocam, he's going to escape, but the range creep is going to start attacking. Jocam, he should be alright. It's going to be an Ice Blast and a Fade Bolt into In Your Dream, but there's going to be no follow-up damage. So In Your Dream, he can just get right back to farming. This is some really nice farm from In Your Dream, considering it is a Spectre. He shouldn't be able to keep up like this, but he's second in net worth. He's only 600 gold behind Krish. That's a real concerning sign for Team D in this game too.
Yeah, Team D, they need to play to a pace now. They've got the Desolator up for Krish. He does do good damage. Issue is he doesn't have a good way of jumping into these fights, and he is rushing to BKB. He understands that with a line around, with a silence and a puck, there's too much control from GXR for him to just rush the blink here. So he's going to have to save up a little bit longer. They are still keeping track of Jocam, but the line's playing really safe. It's just distracting the opposite side, while the jungle of GXR still worked quite well. And no one to hunt down In Your Dream. No triangle wards here from Team D to watch those camps. And GXR are fine with a slower pace. Like, Team D might not be hurting too much, as, again, they also want to farm, but you really don't want to risk it against a Spectre, against a Bat Rider, who have been allowed to reach these item spikes. Blink up on Mizu. He can just go for the Blink Lasso, and you don't have anything to save you yet on Team D's end.
Certainly not. It's going very well so far for GXR. Still a very slow game though, 6-1 at 16.5 minutes. Top lane, they have found a target, and it's going to be Destrus. GXR, they really haven't left that top lane, at least within Your Dream and Jocam, for quite a while, and eventually it does pay off. And I can understand Jocam. He just wants to sit here and make sure that the Spectre is able to farm without risking her life. And so it does in the end. They get a Rubik kill. And it seems like this part of the map is just kind of off limits here for Team D.
It really is, and they haven't been able to play too much on the bot jungle, despite having the mid tier 1 and the bot tier 1. Like they've farmed the further part of that jungle, but not the deeper ends, and it just shows you how much they respect the power output of GXR right now. They do smoke up. Again, this should be the Desolator reveal. Issue is, again, they need to find a way to initiate. Their hold with AA Rubik, it's not the best. They need to be fast in finding these kills here.
And then go into that rather Radiant Triangle. In Your Dream is farming around that area. Just into the Ancients. No vision over the Spectre though. Just out of vision, in fact. They might still have an idea that he's doing this, but they're not going to make their way over. It's a bit too deep. And if you're Team D right now, you're probably thinking about that Roshan. With that Deso up, you can certainly start going after it. It isn't going to be the easiest Roche, though. Like, into a Batrider, into a Spectre with Haunt, into a Dream Coil with the Puck, it's never going to be an easy Roshan. But they may have to go for it sooner rather than later. As time goes on, the Spectre is going to become a real problem.
Yeah, it's just getting bigger and bigger. I mean, In Your Dream still keeping up. Again, you expect the Sven and the TA to just be more efficient, but it doesn't feel like they're using their jungle space all too well because of how aggressive GXR was earlier on. And now you have the Manta up on In Your Dream, so he's got a really good spike if they do commit the Haunt here.
Olsen, he should die to the Ice Blast. Meanwhile, though, Destrus does go to Alacrity. So they're going to trade supports, but it was a pos 4 for a pos 5. Does favor GXR, and well, for the first time it feels like this game, they've got a 2k net worth lead now. So a bit higher than 1k. That being said, however, Team D, they are going to force out this Roshan. GXR, it seems as though they are not aware of this. They have no vision. So Team D just kind of freely walked into the Roshan pit. No scans out either. And they're going to get it completely free. Scans there now, but it's just too late.
That's big. It's a nice protective tool for Krish to have. You can just go back, farm, wait for the BKB, come back out. And that could also give enough time for the BKB of Drew to be done. It's not too far off now. Just lacking the hammer and the recipe. So you're going to hit big spikes once those BKBs are up. And you only really have the lasso for Mizu to handle that. So you're going to have to be on point with your lasso target here once these engagements break through. GXR, for their part, I don't think they're too worried about that, though. They understand that they've still got good farm going. They've got these big spikes on their Spectre. They're really geared up on Mizu's bat. He hasn't really lassoed in the last 10 minutes, it feels like. And they just kind of need to line up their shots, you know, get ready to jump in. Blinks up in Alacrity. He's rushing a Scotty. And does have enough to buy one orb out, so he's going to be statted up as well on the puck. And this farm distribution is really smooth. Like, Team D, they still need more time. Like, that mid-game spike still has to come out here.
I'm still very calm here in this game. Only 10 kills. We only have one kill every 2 minutes, it seems, right now, as Mizu is going to avoid Krish. BKB about to be up on the TA, and that might be about the time where you start to group up as Team D. Same happening for Drew. He's just about to get the BKB up. Does have the blink queued up as well. He might wait that item out, but while you're doing that, In Your Dream, he's working towards the Aghanim Scepter now. Mid lane, no, Alacrity, he's not going to commit. He's just playing games. Top lane, however, looks like they have found Destrus again, and Destrus is going to die in the Rubik. Around that same area. It's not the biggest kill, but it is certainly a kill for GXR.
Yeah, I think just having a kill over Team D is already good enough. Team D is just not able to really run and gun at anyone. They don't really have the best run and gun outside of having your TA join in. And Krish, at this point, I think is going to have to look to. Like, he's got the BKB up. He wants the Ag Shard next for the Silence, which could be really helpful against the puck. And then they can go from there. Mizu, he's still playing top. He still has a lasso. Drew has to be a bit cautious. He does have his BKB. but that BKB is not going to mean much against the lasso, so you will have to watch that piece of control from Mizu here.
Mizu gonna back off. Blink is there, and Drew, he wanted to try and catch him out, but without his own blink, he can't really initiate for the team. So we're back at this stage, 9-2, 2k net worth lead. To the side of GXR, you've got the BKBs up, but I don't see them smoking quite yet. It still feels like they're lacking the initiation. Maybe they do though, and they will. Destrus is gonna pop it. Into the triangle they go, and this might be the first actual team fight we've seen this game too. But JoeCam, he's ready to block off this smoke, and does. It's gonna cost him his life, but it's a good smoke block. He just tanks the gank. And while that was happening, Alacrity and Mizu, they'll just take the bottom tier 1 tower, so they still get a decent enough trade. However,
and they have to watch themselves though. Like the mid tier 2 in exchange for that isn't amazing. And they can melt these towers fast with the Deso up on Krish. Creep waves coming back in. They do have the haunt, they do have the lasso. This could be a prime opportunity to get those spells used up here.
Yeah, I mean, they've got it though. This tier 2 mid tower, it's kind of important. You don't want to just let it go down for free, but it seems as though GXR, they may not feel confident, but they're going to go in with their own smoke. It is broken on Krish, and he is going to back off at that right timing as Drew thinking about going in. Ice Blast is there. They found Mizu, but in the mid, they got a nice Dream Call off to lock them down, and now in your dream, he's there with the Haunt. He's got Polo on the AA, and he will haunt back the other way. Now back on a Krish. They found the TA, but that is going to be the Aegis, as now the Dark Rift is there from KOXY. Everybody get in but Destrus and Krish. God. Oh, they left Krish. Oh, the Aegis respawned. They didn't time it well, but he will TP out. Oh, a bit of a messy escape as now the smoke is there. This is what GXR's been waiting for. They are going to rush into Team D's triangle. And they may just find themselves Drew. Drew, he's not read the movement here. Mizu, he's got the lasso, and they are going to get him. GXR, they were very, very patient. But it will pay off.
And that's massive. Taking the Aegis and killing off the Sven. Team D, they kind of broke their position there. I think what they were doing earlier on was the right move. Just drop the Pit of Malice in front of the TA to prevent the Blink Lasso and just melt the tower. Instead, they broke their position, tried to run across the lane, get the jump forward, and they were punished. So the impatience from Team D does cost them. Good punishment out from GXR. Team D should understand, though, that this is time with no haunt, although Krish is being chased.
No. They got the Aghanim Scepter on in your dream, so he can just shadow step up like that. And the rest of his team, they weren't going to make it in time, but they're pretty close as Destrus does get a lift up. I have Skadi now also available in Alacrity, so he's a pretty tanky puck. So Earth Spike does not land Destrus. He'll be okay. They're TPing in to try and force his team fight. But they're not going to be able to find anyone. It does really feel like they are lacking a lot of initiation here for Team D. They've just got nobody to start the fight. They are going to find JoeCam. So at least you get yourself a Lion Kill, maybe even Polison. He'll try for the TP, the lift. Oh, it's barely there. They'll be able to get him. Yeah. So a double kill out for Krish. But back to my point, until this blinks up on Drew, the initiation just doesn't feel online for Team D. Even with the blink up on the Rubik, it's just not enough.
Yeah, they're going to need Drew's blink. It's very close. So is Krish's. Krish is about 300 gold away. Mid tier 2 will fall now as well. So they managed to find the objective trade in the end. And in that sense, if you look at the state of the map, Team D does have better control right now. The vision game coming out from both is rather even. Good triangle wards coming out from GXR. But same thing goes for Team D, and they've got that Roche ward as well to watch the movement in there. So I think right now, despite that net worth lead going GXR was way at 3k, it's almost the same situation as Game 1 where GXR had the slight lead with the Luna Doom. This time they have the slight lead with the Puck and Spectre, which is better, to be fair. Like Team D is still expected to have more, but I don't think it's completely out of the books yet for Team D. They smoke up, they want to play around here.
Polison, he might be able to break the smoke. That's a nice smoke break from Polison. If he loses his life, he's more than happy. Haunt in though, in your dream, he might want to force a fight, and they do. The coil's there. They've locked down 2 with that. Drew's got Paulison down, but Krish, he's going on to in your dream. This is not a great fight at all for GXR, as they've got the Spectre now, but the lasso. Mizu's going to save the day. He'll drag Drew over, and now the Shadow step out. Drew, where you going? KYXY, he's down already. This now Sven has just been kited around and does go down. Mizu's been targeted, but they got the Hex off. They do kill Mizu, but Krish, he's been left alone. I don't think he can survive this. A Night Thirst spike from Destrus, but it is not going to matter. They'll get the TA back into the Rubik. He'll be able to TP out. That lasso from Mizu, though, it does end up saving the day here, as in your dream, he may have died had they not gotten the Sven.
Yeah, that was just great calls coming out from GXR to find the right targets to isolate. They use their spells really well, and they find the big kills. They widen that lead to 6k. Team D, I don't know about this item build-up coming out in KYXY. He's trying to rush a Hex. I don't think they need a Hex. I think they need a Lotus. They need some way to purge off the control that will fly out on the Sven to stop that lasso, to keep their big core hitting. Because if the Sven doesn't hit, there's a bit of a damage issue coming through here from Krish. Like, I saw him just twack away in Spectre, and it was just tickling in your dream, and not enough to really kill him off. The Ice Blast is nice here, but it's also not enough to threaten him. He's just going to have to stay in that fountain area a bit longer to regen back up. Still, Team D, they need more. They need more time, they need more farm, and that just gives GXR much more to play with it, because as you stall towards late, this is still a Spectre. This is a Spectre who's going to have Butterfly very soon. A very tanky frontliner, a very big core. You don't have the break. You can play around with your Firestorm, but that's it. Like, that's your scaling right now until damage starts to fly in from your Sven and TA, and it just doesn't feel like they're able to really flash farm as fast as they'd want to in either hero.
What strength? They found Jokam. Mizu, he's there. He's going to commit the lasso, but Jokam's already dead. And now Drew's just going to chase him down, so a bit of an error here from our Batrider. But Haunt is out. Maybe they could just try and turn this one around, as KYXY is going to pop the Dark Rift. He'll try to get them out, and he should be just fine to do so. Bit of a commitment there from GXR, and they don't really get much out of it. Now that you have that Haunt down, Team D, they might want to try and make a play out of this. We'll see what they decide to do. They are still 6k net worth behind. True, I suppose he does have to wait out the God Strength anyway, if he does want to go for another fight.
Yeah, and there's enough time for GXR to just bail back out. TPs were still up there for In Your Dream, so he's safe. Missed opportunity for GXR, but not the biggest miss in the world. The unfortunate thing is they're not going to have Haunt for the next rush, although Krish is still playing mid here.
Well, they won't have the coil, so they can't really lock him down. They're just trying to push the wave back. I suppose you're at that point now where you're waiting for that next Roshan, and it is literally just about to respawn, and there you go. And this time around, GXR, they should be in prime position to try and claim their own Roshan.
And they could. Again, with no Haunt for a minute, can make it a bit awkward when the fight does break through, but Dream Coil's going to be back up. Lasso is half a minute away. God Strength is a few seconds away as well, so the spells are going to line up once more. I think Team D has to be the ones inside of pit. Like, they do not want to be playing from outside in. They have to be the ones kind of clumped there, play it around with their Pit of Malice, and just get some Firestorms off. They are smoked, though.
Yeah, Paulison did a Malice out. Dream Coil there as well. They've got Destrus locked down. Ice Mask Finger, everything being thrown out. Jokam, he'll secure one, but they'll lose Paulison. Meanwhile, in your dream, he's going to come in with the Shadow Step, and no, he doesn't. He does get Ponlo, Alacrity. He's the one to pick it up. KYXY again with the Dark Rift. He's going to be able to get himself out. Drew. He'll be okay. They're not going to dive the tier 2. You go for Roshan right now, though, if you're GXR.
Oh, 100%. Like, you didn't have to pop any big spells besides Finger. The Rosh is not going to last long against this Butterfly Spectre up. That is Aegis Cheese Ag Shard. Very big win coming out for GXR and Team D. They just couldn't really kill the big targets fast enough. Like, just not enough damage output here, as GXR are going to have the tools to start to think about that high ground. they can start looking at those tier 2s, start taking them out, and make that move up. That means Ag Shard does go away for a Spectre here. So you do have the nice little dispersion cast now to create an illusion. So you're going to have more utility coming out from the spec. And it's just more annoying for Team D. They have so many things to worry about in the middle of these team fights. They still don't have anything to protect from the lasso. And they're actually going for the Ags here on KYXY. So they just want the charges up on the Dark Rift to bail out, which is one way to get that done. I still think a protective item to stop the lasso is probably going to be your best bet. Maybe Ag Shard Rubik might be the play instead. Just telekinesis pull back on whoever's lasso. That would be a good save.
Well, Bonlo is being caught out. In your dream, he picks up another kill, his 5th of the game. Very nice pick up there. Of course, a very hard game for the AAs. I mean, in your dream, as soon as he sees you, he just shadow steps over and almost guarantees himself a kill. With that, can they find some sort of trade? Maybe Krish can get Polisson, but it's nowhere near as good. They're going to lose this top tier 2 as well, so it seems like Team D have reserved themselves to perhaps defending high ground later on. I suppose you do still have the other outer towers anyway. But there is an 8k net worth lead now for GXR, so they are certainly going to be feeling good with themselves. And it's kind of like you keep saying to me, John, Drew, he's missing some damage here. It just doesn't feel like a big kind of Sven, God strength kind of damage coming out. It feels quite lackluster, in fact. And so is Krish right now with his TA.
And neither one can really go for the Daedalus yet. They both need the MKBs to deal with that evasion coming through. So you're not going to see that damage anytime soon as well. And they just can't really take these frontal engagements yet. Maybe, again, if they had a saving tool to stop the lasso, I think that's when I'd feel more confident. And it just doesn't look like they're thinking about that. I think they feel like they have bigger issues than that control, which is fair enough. I still think that that's the big turning point in these engagements. If Drew gets lassoed, if Krish gets lassoed, you're pretty much lost that fight. So a saving tool would help that situation around. There is an MKB up in Krish now, so the TA can hit the Spectre. Maybe that might be enough. Just having consistent hits on the spec, getting good attack speed off as well. We're gonna have to see if it will pay off. The MKBs flying out for Drew as well, all assembled. So the timing for both cores are lined up. They just have to be cautious. Age is still running for about 2 minutes here. Not the best time to force a fight.
Both teams have been very careful. I mean, you understand why GXR, like, they're one game from being locked down to the lower bracket. They don't want to risk having to go through OB Neon if they can avoid it. And Team D, I mean, one game away from proceeding through to the main event. They obviously don't want to have to throw that opportunity away and force it to a game number 3. A lot of pressure on these two teams as they will just take it easy here.
Radiant's bottom tower
They're
is
looking
under
for
attack.
that perfect opportunity.
Dire's middle tower is
I
under
mean, it is
attack.
very concerning, though, if you are Team D. Alacrity, he's turning into that kind of secondary carry now on that puck. And they are starting to move their way into that mid lane. They're going to try and fight Team D. Oh, Joe Cam, he's in. He's got a double Earth Spike as well. And they've got the Dream Coil there to lock them down. They might be able to burst them out, and they do. Lasso's there. They catch out Drew already. He's got no buyback gold. And Krish? Yeah, he's not safe either. He's also got no buyback gold. They both just bought the MKBs up.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, that's really bad. I don't know why Drew opted to poke back in after he saw the Enchantress smoke pop. They just don't play it safe enough, and they're punished. They have to hold out for a full minute without their big force, and I don't think GXR is going to wait. The slowest coming out from GXR, with that Scotty up on Alacrity, they just can't run. There's just so much slow stacking here. Once you get caught, you're going to be lassoed, you're going to be bursted down. And it's just down to the fact that there's no saves on Team D. The best save they have is Dark Rift out. Even that has like a delay that just doesn't make it a very quick save.
Nice Hex. Joe Cam, he's in. Earth Spike out as well. They've got the AA. Ponlo, he's down, but he'll have buyback. Destrus, he's actually just dying to the Spectral Illusion. He will survive as KYXY. He was not be so lucky. And Ponlo, he just fought back. Uh-oh. Team D, this game number 2 looked to be falling apart. As GXR just proving to be a little bit too strong right now. Their cores are almost back up and the Aegis is going to expire.
Dire's
GXR, they may have only enough time to get one lane of racks down. We'll see if they're feeling a little bit frisky here to go for a second. They might just back off and play it safe once again.
Dire's middle barracks has fallen.
Lift up, Destrus. Buyback is there. Can you actually deal the damage though? He's gonna butterfly. It's gonna be hard, but they are doing it now. In your dream, he's gonna be 4-staffed out. But there's just not enough. He haunts just in case. Or rather, shadow
Dire's
steps.
middle barracks has fallen.
Yeah. I think you're still in a good spot here for Team D. I'm 23k behind. You do manage to hold off on the further tier 4 push, but it costs you a ton. And you're playing at a huge item deficit. Like, Mega Creeps can't come out yet, as your bot tier 2 standing. So the map situation isn't as bad as it can theoretically be, but it's still not good. Your farming positions are limited now. For your Sven, for your TA, they still need more items to come true. You really want something like a Daedalus up on your Sven. It does look like Drew is going to have to go for the break on the Silver Edge, and that's also a lot of farm he needs. It's just not going to come out fast enough. The high ground defense for Team D has to be much more disciplined. They can't afford to get caught out on the ramp areas. They have to hold on the high ground. If someone steps out, it has to be KOXY. It can't be any of these big cores, because once they're out, they're dead. And you can see just the build-up in GXR. They've got the Daedalus up on Alacrity, so he hits like a truck. The Spectre hits like a truck. You just don't have ways of dealing with that. There's just not enough defense coming through. Like, you've got an Underlord with Atrophy, and it's really not doing enough to mitigate that damage anymore.
No, it certainly isn't. You kind of look to Drew and Sven used to be that hero that used to just kind of one-shot people, right? It's just not the same hero anymore. They're going to go for that Silver Edge now on Drew, so I guess, you're going to have that break, but even with that, there's just so many ways to catch the Sven and just make it so he can't finish the kill onto In Your Dream. It's just a very challenging time here as they're being run down again. GXR right behind them. Jokam's having a look on this Lion. They're waiting, but there's your Horn 10 to give the vision. Who are they going to jump in on first? It is going to be Krish in the backside. In Your Dream, he's just taken no damage. They get the Earth Spike out. They've got a nice coil as well. KYXY is going to try and Dark Rift them out of there. Can he make it in time? No. He's going to die before it even pops off. Krish, he's still trying to fight out the Spectre, but he's doing no damage. In Your Dream, going to take him out, and that's GG. Just...
Oh boy.
It was a slow game, but it was quite methodical from GXR.
Radiant victory.
And for Team D, you've got to ask yourself where it went wrong. For me, it kind of feels like this draft just wasn't made to go ultra late game like this, and it's not even ultra late game yet. But it's a Spectre and Puck, right? Like, once you get into the late game, these heroes are very, very scary.
I don't think it was the late game factor. It was more on the fact that Team D didn't have a good way of splitting farm up for Krish and Drew.
Right.
The timings for Krish were really slow. He did have a good time in lane. He matched a puck, but that's not really what you want. You want to be ahead. You want to be able to clear out your camps quicker. They weren't getting enough there. The side lanes were a lot harder to manage there for Team D. The Batrider last pick was really just enough to control Drew on his safe lane, and it just really slowed down the pace there for the side of Team D. Like, they last picked the Sven into the Batrider. It just didn't feel like the solution there for Team D. They didn't have any saves. I think itemization might have been a factor. Like, they had nothing to stop the lassos once it was out. They needed something like a Lotus to just stop Drew from being dragged back in those earlier fights. Down the line, it probably didn't make sense anymore to buy it later on, but earlier on, if they just had something to ensure Drew could get hits off, they could have turned that around. Like, that fight by the Outpost bot looked like if Drew just focuses damage, they could have won that and turned the game. But small mistakes like that were coming out from Team D. GXR, they bounced back in really strong fashion. I mean, Alacrity went 13-0. IYD was 17-0 with 19 assists. Just really great games from them this time. We'll have to see how that game tree evens out here.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a very clean game from GXR in this game number 2. And luckily for us, John, we get a game number 3 between these two. And we'll be back after a 10-minute break to see how these drafts go and how this game number 3 does pan out. We'll see you all again very soon.